What's going on, y'all? Back with a Scrap Lounge, episode 7. Today we got longtime UFC veteran Billy Quarantillo joining us.
Let's get it.
What's up, Billy? How you doing?
I am doing great, guys. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Right before our training, I got some training coming up soon. We're at my gym, like I mentioned, so it's a little loud, but we're gonna push through it.
Yes,
Oh
sir. Yes,
yeah, oh
sir.
yeah. I kind of want to start off with a question I like to ask everybody. Was there something in your childhood that happened that made you want to start MMA, or did it kind of just progressively happen over time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, some probably went right or went wrong. I think the biggest thing with my childhood was I had an older brother and an older sister, and then two older brothers that were like a few years older than us. So I was the youngest. I'm the youngest of five children, and I think a lot of just always wrestling, getting into it, playing outside, playing different sports, being around the boys all the time, like getting in little fights here and there, probably had a lot to do with me being comfortable, doing jujitsu, boxing, kickboxing, that kind of stuff. So it was probably a lot of that. But yeah, and then when I was like a teenager, the first Ultimate Fighter, that was the first one where I was like, wow, people are actually doing this for like a career, because before that MMA wasn't really a big thing. So there was definitely different stages of that, but definitely being the youngest of five children had a lot to do with it.
Since you mentioned the Ultimate Fighter, I wanted to ask about that. What did you take away from the Ultimate Fighter, getting to be experience that and stuff?
Yeah, a lot. I took a lot from it. So that was a long time ago now, but it was like about 6 years into my career. It was really the first time I was around just a big group of high level guys, a bunch of UFC fighters, Conor McGregor, Uriah Faber, guys like Chad Mendez, Andre Fili, Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, Jose Aldo was there for a few days. Just being around that group of guys and watching their work ethic, how they trained, what they do day in and day out. It was definitely motivating, and it definitely opened my eyes to see the work that I had to put in to get to the level that I'm at now.
What would you say is the biggest life lesson you've learned throughout the fight game?
Just in general,
Yeah.
the biggest life lesson I learned in the fight game, man, there's a lot of them. I'm trying to think of like the big, like a really big one. Probably the biggest life lesson is no matter what happens, like you go out there and have a huge win or a huge loss, you can't dwell on it or celebrate it too much, because we have a long career, and I know I never had a fight where it's like this one fight is gonna retire you, put you away. Like, it's never just one fight. So
Yep.
whether if you lose, you can't be too hard on yourself. You got to just get back in there and learn from it. And when you win, you can't celebrate and take time off, and take too much time off, and eat crap for too long, because you still got work to do. Like, even now, I'm 37 years old. I still have so much work to do. I still got a few more big wins to get. So I can't dwell on my losses, and I can't be like, oh, you had a good career, now it's time to relax, because I still got work to do. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it. It's just all about the journey, and I know I still got a few more big opportunities coming up.
If you could go back and think about one fight in your career, which one of those fights would you say best represents you as a fighter?
Oh man, there's a few of them. I would say probably the Alex Hernandez fight. Kind of it really kind of breaks down what I'm about, where I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna be super aggressive, I'm gonna push the pace on you. And he hit me with a huge elbow. I was bleeding everywhere. It didn't even phase me, and I was able to kind of wear him down. And it's basically like, that's my style. Like, if you don't break me, I'm gonna break you. Like, one of us is getting finished. Like, that's my whole style. I never want to stall. I never want to win a decision. So it's kill or be killed. And that was a great example of that, where he won the first round. He busted me up. I was bleeding everywhere. But it didn't slow me down. And the second round, I came out just as aggressive and was able to actually break him. So that's one of them. There's been a bunch of fights very similar to that. But that's one that's a special one that always sticks out for me.
What would you say motivates you in times like that after that first round to come back and get it?
Yeah, sometimes it's other stuff. That one really it's we actually have a really there's a cool video that we broke down one time. That was after the birth of my first son. I have two kids now, a third on the way. And I remember my head coach Matt Arroyo, who's just been around forever, coached, a ton of really high level guys, a high level jiu-jitsu guy himself. In between rounds, like I'm bleeding everywhere, and he's giving me like math problems to try to figure stuff out, make sure my head's there. And then he goes, "When's your son's birthday?" And I had to like think about it. And I remember I got it correctly, thank God, because it was on, like pay-per-view or on like ESPN. But I remember when he asked me, he's like, "When's your son's birthday?" What it did for me, and I don't know if he did this on purpose. He probably did, but it made me think of, the big picture. Like, I need to go out there and win this fight. Like, I have a kid to support, I have a family to support. So my family's always been a huge motivation for me. And in that moment, in between the first and second round, him reminding me of that was all the motivation I needed, and I kind of snapped
Yeah.
right there, and it put me right back in the right mind frame of, you're bleeding everywhere, but go out there and win this fight for your family.
Have you ever had a moment like earlier in your career where you thought maybe MMA wasn't the right choice for you? Or have you always just known that like that's what you're meant to do?
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of ups and downs. I remember there was a couple pretty big ones where, because even after the Ultimate Fighter, I didn't get signed to the UFC, so I was still struggling, like struggling to make bills, figuring out what I was going to do. I always had the plan to get to the UFC, but I remember when I won a huge fight and I knocked out Eric Reynolds, and then a few weeks later I tore my ACL. So I'm sitting there, I had to be like I was probably 10-2. I was 10-2 as a pro. I had nothing to show for it. Like I didn't have a lot of money. But I had 10 wins and two losses. I was on a nice little winning streak, but I tore my ACL. I had to get knee surgery. I knew I was going to be out for a year. I was already 28 years old. So that was like rock bottom for me, where I was like driving Ubers around, like I was crutching to my car and driving an Uber around for hours on end. I had a great record. I was like that typical Uber driver where like people would get in and be like, "Oh, how long you been Ubering?" I'm like, "Oh, this isn't really my job. I'm not like this isn't what I do full time." So that was one of like the rock bottom moments. But my girl stuck with me. She always supported me. She's my wife now. But that was one where it was like I really was questioning, it was if it was all worth it. But luckily I didn't have a real backup plan. So I rehabbed like crazy, came back. I won a couple more fights, got on the Contender series, and now the rest is history.
I know you mentioned you tore your ACL. Would you say that's the worst injury you've had in your career, or can you name some other ones?
Yeah, the ACL, time away from the mat, the ACL was the worst because it was an ACL, a meniscus repair. They cleaned it out. It was they did all kinds of stuff to it. So I didn't do jujitsu or grapple for like 9 months. And all I did was like lift weights and box and then eventually run. But all I did was box. So it got my hands better. But the longevity of it, that was a bad one. I broke my hand once and I got a few plates in there. Just recently, last year, had meniscus surgery on my other knee. And then I've had stitches like all over like everywhere in my face. And but besides that, I actually consider myself pretty fortunate because you hear of some guys that have had some crazy surgeries, and I've only had a few major ones.
I'm not sure if you keep up with like MMA, like current fights and stuff, but I wanted to ask you about one of your past opponents, Cub Swanson. What'd you think about his retirement fight a few weeks ago?
Yeah, oh yeah, I was watching it, and Nate Landwehr was someone. We've both called each other out a few times. I thought that was gonna be a match made in heaven. Me and the train, but yeah, I saw it. I mean, he looked good, man. It gave me some confidence because Nate Landwehr didn't do shit. Like he just got beat up. He got pieced up. I was like, damn, dude. At least like I won at least one round, maybe two, and I
So
was
Nate didn't land nothing.
yeah, he didn't do anything. I was like, damn, dude, I don't even want to fight Nate anymore. I was like, he looked awful. So, yeah, I mean, credit to Cub, man. He reached out to me a few months before that fight and was like, hey, man, I just wanted to, I wanted to pick your brain, ask you about your game plan for my fight. And I was going to tell you like what I saw fighting you. And so it was cool. He's an OG of the sport. I would obviously love to get that fight back, but he can go off and be retired. He had a legendary career. So I got no hard feelings for him. He's a legend of the sport, and he looked great in his. He went out with two big knockouts, so good
Yeah.
for him, man.
I know you mentioned watching that fight. Are you a type of fighter that likes to watch from the prelims, or do you only watch fights that kind of catch your attention?
That's a good question, man. I always I've definitely been on Twitter. I'm like, yo, this is fight one, let's go. But then sometimes, I'm super busy. I own my own academy.
Yeah,
I have two kids, a wife, a family. I train myself. So, like I get myself ready. I do
yeah.
commentary sometimes. So sometimes I don't get a chance to watch the early prelims, but there's definitely a bunch of cards where I've watched it from beginning to end, and I love every minute. I'm still a huge fan at the end of the day.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 2 and 3, about to be 4. So my wife's pregnant. She's due in August. So we're gonna have 3 boys under 5 years old. So it's gonna be like 4, 2, and 1 by the time he drops. So we're excited about that.
About time to have them start training, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. I got my 3-year-old comes to my gym. We got a really good kids program here at Gracie Pack. And so he comes in and I joke with them. I'm like, dude, sometimes he's embarrassing me. Like the other day, they were asking for like a jab and he was throwing both punches. I was like, buddy, you're making me look awful. Like you can't be throwing a double punch.
What's it been like owning your own academy and stuff like that? You enjoying it?
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, I love it. I always tell people like if money wasn't an issue, I would own my own gym just so I could train here. But I'm very fortunate with the team that I have and the fighters that I get to train with. They're not only like my fighters, they're teammates, they're guys I coach, but they're also like my buddies. Like we come
Yeah.
here and we work really hard together. I think in a few years you're gonna hear a lot of my fighters get to that next level. We got a bunch of guys that are like right on the cusp of making it big in the UFC.
What's a couple names we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, absolutely. So Blake Smith, he was a two-time CFFC champion. He's 11-4 right now.
Okay.
Will Rentz, who's like he cornered me in the last few fights. He's 7-2, but on a huge winning streak. He's finished all of his opponents. His last win, I forgot the kid's name, but he's in the UFC now. So like, they're fighting tough guys.
Yeah.
David Macias is 5-0. He's never lost a fight. He was 7-0 as an amateur, 5-0 as a pro. And then Ali Abusalam, he's 5-1 as a pro. His only loss was a close decision to a guy that was like 9-1. So those four guys, I already sent him out to Sean Shelby. I'm like, listen, man, like these guys are ready. So I'm hoping they do me a solid and get at least one of them on. But if not, like they all have the right mentality. They're ready to keep fighting until they get that opportunity. So those four guys are like the next wave. And then we got about 20, 25 guys that are also trying to get to their level and get to my
Yeah.
level.
Since we're talking about fights, when are you looking to get back in there yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I talked to Sean. So I was out the last year with the knee surgery, but
Mm.
like I'm training tonight. I'm doing kickboxing tonight and sparring tonight, and they told me July or August. So I'm just praying that it matches up with the birth of this third baby. Like I don't care if they push it back a couple weeks or a few weeks early. I just don't want it to be like right
Right
around the
then.
due date. So
Yeah.
we're seeing, man. It's everything happens for a reason, and all I could do is train as hard as I can and prepare myself and they know whoever they give me, they know I'm going to accept it.
You got
Out
any
of all,
names?
Yeah, so I'm moving up to 155. Any of the big names, man. Like I did an interview earlier. Like I just want a big name, man. Like a Jim Miller, like a Drew Dober would be fun. I'm trying to think. I can't really think of a lot of the lightweights because I haven't really been looking too much. But just a big name would be great. A stadium fight would be great. Obviously I'm coming off that knockout loss to Cub and the loss to Zalal. So coming off two losses, I'm not going to be like super picky. So whoever they give me, like they know I'm super game.
out of all the places you fought at, what was your favorite place to travel to?
My favorite win was probably Nashville. I beat what's his name? Damon Jackson. I beat in Nashville and
Hmm.
it was just an incredible fight, incredible atmosphere. The crowd, I was like right before the main crowd or the main card and the
Yeah.
crowd was just insane already and it was just the energy was crazy. My favorite fight venue was probably Madison Square Garden.
Mm.
Me and Shane Burgos had a crazy fight there.
Oh, God.
I'm friends with him now, but we just had an absolute dog fight. So I definitely that's always gonna have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I remember watching that card that night too. That was a crazy one.
Yeah, yeah, it was people always tell me like, man, I love that fight. It could have went either way, I think, but I learned a lot from that fight too. And it was even though I didn't get my hand raised, it was still a super memorable fight that I'm happy I got to fight in these cool places.
What do you think you would be doing if you weren't a fighter? If
Yeah,
you can't
I
say
don't.
coaching,
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
be
yeah,
second
yeah,
MMA.
definitely. I mean, that's definitely gonna be my second career. Coaching these young guys that are the next generation. It's a good question, man. And that was one reason I got into MMA is because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Um, I like businesses. Like I would definitely try to be my own boss. I would own my own business like I do now. So I think over time I probably would have bought my own business or started my own business. I don't know exactly what I would have done. Probably something with fitness or I can't say martial arts, but something, I love hands-on and I don't like doing the same thing every single day. So I like, what I do now where some days I come in and I do interviews or I do payroll or I help with the kids classes or I teach an adult class. Some days I come and I just train. Some days I do jujitsu. Some days I wrestle. Some days I do kickboxing. Tonight I'm going to spar. So I like having a different schedule because it gets me bored if I'm doing the same thing every day.
What was there something about the UFC that surprised you when you first got in?
Um, I heard about a lot of the stuff. I think what's surprising about it is how well run it is and like how it's kind of relaxed in the sense of like, you go to like a regional fight and they're like, make sure you do your paperwork and make sure you're here at this time and someone's not here and it's very like unorganized. And the UFC, it's like they got it down. Like you got to show up at the venue at this time. You're gonna do this at this time. You could bring this to eat if you want. We're gonna have this for you to eat. You're gonna walk probably at this time. It's very, very organized and it's obviously very professional, which is something that I can appreciate. The whole fight week, I've done it like probably what 12 or 13 times. I've cornered Frivola and some other guys before, so I've done the UFC fight week probably 20 times. So I understand what they do and it's very professional.
Is there somebody in the UFC right now that you think is flying under the radar and is kind of just, very underrated?
Um, trying to think. Who's underrated in the UFC? Man, I can't really think of any of these. There's some young guys that I've trained with before. No, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to call anyone out, but like I said, there's some guys that are on my team that I think there's some guys that aren't in the UFC that I think can compete in the UFC. They just got to do those next big steps, right?
So,
Well, man, as we start to wrap it up, we're gonna hit you with some kind of like rapid fire questions if you're cool with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, who's the MMA GOAT?
That may go. I would say George St. Pierre.
I love it.
what is
I
one
love it.
rule you would change in MMA?
One rule I would change.
Yes, sir.
Um, either everyone can kick in the face when you're down, or if you're on the bottom, you should be able to up kick the person that's on top of you.
Yeah, I like that.
Dream opponent could be retired or a current fighter.
I'm sorry.
Dream opponent, he could be retired or a current fighter.
Probably I said this earlier in an interview that the rematch with Edson Barbosa because it was just such a stupid game plan and like I would just love to run that one back just to even if I got knocked out again like just I was just spaz shooting and I know I could have put up if I fought my style it would have been a much better fight.
And the last one, who's the hardest hitter you faced in the UFC?
The hardest hitter probably probably so I've been knocked out twice, Cub Swanson and Edson Barbosa. The
Hmm.
Edson Barbosa fight, like I don't even like it was like I don't even remember it. It was so hard. Like I was like I remember being backstage after the fight and I remember looking around and being like, all right guys, like are we ready to go fight? And everyone just looked at me, they're like, oh, and my
Oh
coach came
man.
up to me and they're like, dude, you've said that like three times already. And they're like, this
Oh.
is what he's like, this is what happened. And I had to watch myself get knocked out. And
Oh.
I didn't even know I fought already. So I was like, wow. So the crazy thing about that is it didn't hurt me at all. After the next day, of course, I felt it, but like it was
Mhm.
just one of those things where like he hit me so hard that like I don't even remember it and it didn't hurt at all. It was
Yeah. Just like going to sleep
just
and waking up.
brutally knocked me out. And the Cub fight. The Cub fight, I kind of remember it. Like I remember like looking at the ref, I'm like, why'd you stop the fight? And I looked back at it, I'm like, yeah, dude, you got knocked out. But the I would say the Barbosa's knees, that was probably the hardest I've ever been hit.
Yeah.
What do you say the most entertaining fight of all time is to watch?
Of someone else or myself?
Someone else.
Someone else. Okay, so I've been to some really good live ones. The live ones that I've in my memory bank, Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum was up there. Right before that was Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier 2, I think, and they whooped each other. And then
Hmm.
another one, a sleeper one, was uh Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Holland
Ooh,
live in
Orlando, huh?
Orlando. It was somewhere, I think it was Orlando, somewhere in
Yeah, it
Florida.
was
It
Orlando.
was
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. I was like, holy crap. So those three are definitely up there.
Those are good ones.
Well, before we head out, is there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to? I know you talked to us about those people in your gym earlier, but is there anybody else?
No, but no, I gotta head out to this training session. I appreciate you guys having me. Shout out to everyone. Gracie Pack, if you guys are ever in Tampa, come hit me up. Come get a free training session in, and we'll get some work in.
Hell yeah.
Sounds good, man.
We appreciate you, Billy.
All right,
Yes,
boys.
sir.
Take care.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time, man.